Hello everyone, Michael Kellum here with another video. I do apologize that this video came out a little bit late. I'm actually downstairs in my parents' basement right now recording this video because my day's just been so filled up with stuff that I really didn't have any time to film a video, but I'm still pulling through for you guys. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can find cheap or free places to park your RV to live in full time. Before I get started with this, I make these videos in my own free time. I'm not sponsored by anybody and nobody's paying me to make these videos. I would greatly appreciate it if you let this video a like and considered subscribing to my channel. It's completely free to you, but it really helps me out, and you'll get a lot of really cool content such as the life of living in an RV. And if you haven't seen my previous videos, I work at the Stanley Hotel, so I have a lot of cool videos planned at the Stanley Hotel. Without any further ado, let's just go ahead and get right into the video. First off, I'd like to mention that the kind of full-time RV living that I do is a little bit different than most people. My RV is parked and stationary during the winter, but during the summer, I try to go out to different campsites in the mountains and just stay there for 2 weeks at a time. So in this video, I'm gonna be covering how to find a place to keep your RV for long-term uses, how to find places to boondock in your RV full-time, and I'm also gonna give you guys tips on how to optimize your chances in finding a place that's cheap. So first of all, apps are your best friend. There's quite a few apps that you can download that'll show you all kinds of dispersed camping places. Just a couple of them are Campendium and Allstays. Both of those are really good apps and will probably cover pretty much everything that you're going to be looking for. A couple things to keep in mind with boondocking though. First of all, is generally you're not allowed to stay there for more than 2 weeks, or you're at least not allowed to stay there forever. Some places it's even 1 week, some places it's a month. It really depends, but the general consensus is about 2 weeks. So if you decide to go boondocking full time, just keep that in mind. You're gonna have to move your RV every couple weeks, which in my case is totally fine, but not everybody's gonna be okay with that. It is a really cool way to just live in nature. That's personally why I do this lifestyle. I just like to be away from everybody, so that's pretty much what I do. Another thing you could do is Facebook and Facebook groups. Now this one applies for dispersed camping as well as long-term stationary RV living. As much as I hate Facebook, I have to admit that it is very practical for this lifestyle. On Facebook, I'm a part of about 10 different groups between dispersed camping groups and groups of people who live in their RVs full time. These groups are actually super helpful, and you're just one question away from finding your next place to stay. And these Facebook groups will often give you information for campsites that these apps don't have. A lot of people have that secret camping spot. One thing though is if you ask someone and they give you a secret camping spot, don't report it to these apps. People keep their secret camping spots a secret for a reason. They don't want other people going there. So if someone gives you the courtesy of actually telling you where their camping spot is, don't go telling everybody else where that is. One other thing too I might mention with dispersed camping, and this is personally a problem that I've had to deal with, is campsites keep shutting down because people are just trashing them. So if you decide to do the full-time RV life and you do this by dispersed camping full-time, make sure at the very least everything you take in you bring back with you. Literally leave no trace. Don't cut any trees down, don't leave trash behind, don't pollute anything, don't dump your tanks into the rivers. I don't know why people do that, but apparently that's been a problem, and that's a big reason why a lot of these campsites are getting shut down. And I personally say even go a step further. These places are free to camp at, and if you're using them to live in, I would at least contribute to the spaces by even taking trash with you. So not only leaving no trace behind, but taking other people's traces with you. If enough of us do this together, we can actually save these campsites from being closed down permanently. Now I'm gonna move on to finding a place to park your RV permanently, or not permanently, but long term. So with that, same thing with Facebook. Facebook groups are super helpful. Not gonna go down that rabbit hole again, but I found that knowing people actually helps a lot. And yeah, I use Facebook for the first time or two that you have to find a place long term to stay. And I usually format this as, hey, I'm a person who lives in an RV full time. I'm just looking for someone with a piece of property located near or around X location. These are the hookups that I need. This is the size of my RV. This is my budget. What all do you have out there? And more than likely, you're gonna find quite a few people who just have a piece of property they're not using. And in my case, I actually found someone who lives on a farm and they're just not taking advantage of the farm. They're not really doing anything. They're just renting out their space to some other farmer to use. And then the little section that I'm sitting on is unused. The cool thing about this though is, unfortunately, my time there is starting to come up. And for the time being, I'm just gonna go into boondocking places and stay there for the summer. Just kind of hop between different places every 2 weeks. But the cool thing is, the person whose property I'm staying on right now, she knows other people with similar types of property. And talking to her a little bit, she's actually gotten in contact with a lot of these people, and I've been offered a lot of places to stay. So once you get into it and you've stayed on a couple people's property, you've gotten to know a few people, even if you know other people who are doing this full time, it won't be that hard to find a place to stay long term. And of course, the more people I get to know, the more people they'll know, and the more people I'll have access to. I'll even be able to offer a couple $100s to people who aren't even on Facebook to stay on their property. All right, now on to my final tip here. This is how you can make sure that you save as much money as possible doing this lifestyle. The biggest and most significant tip, in my opinion, is make sure you're completely independent. If you can get in touch with someone and say, hey, I just need a piece of property, I don't even need electric, I don't even need water, you're gonna get way more responses and you're gonna be able to save a lot of money. Generally, if you're looking for a place to park with full hookups, you're gonna be looking to spend about $800 to $1,000, or at least in Colorado. It could be different in your state, it probably is different in your state. Colorado's really ridiculous with our rates. But if you open yourself up to, say for example, in my situation, a farmer's property, where they may not necessarily have hookups, it opens up that option, and since you don't have hookups, you can actually negotiate a lower price. So instead of looking at $800 to $1,000, you're probably gonna be looking more at like $300 to $500, depending on the location that you're at. So make sure you're fully independent. Me personally, I use solar panels for my electric, and then I just have a tank of water that I carry around with me. Well, it's the built-in tank to my RV. I just go to the Love's gas station and fill up that tank and then take it with me. So I don't need electric or water, and I recommend that you guys do something similar, especially if you're living in an RV, not a tiny house. The next tip that I have is make sure you have a great relationship with the people whose property you stay on. If you're a clean person and you become really good friends with the property owners, you can build yourself up a little catalog of references. So when you're going to find other people's property to stay on, it'll open up more options because a lot of people require references. This is super helpful because when you're looking for another property to stay on, when you go to that property owner, it's super helpful to give them a list of references, especially if they've never had someone park on their property before. They may be a little bit cautious and they may be a little wary about how you're gonna be or what you're gonna do to their property. And rightfully so, it's their property. And you live in an RV. Unfortunately, we do have that stigma that people who live in RVs are just not very good people. And most people are going to have that opinion of you, especially if they've never done anything like that before. So with every person's property that you stay on, if you can build a good relationship with them and have a reference from them, that'll be super helpful down the road. Well, anyway, that's it for this video. I know it wasn't super long, but I think it's something that should be out there. If you like this video, again, give me a thumbs up, consider subscribing to my channel, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.